And welcome back to the Nutrimedical Report, and I'm going to continue talking about specific nutraceutical protocols so that you can become a little bit more aware of how we can deal with things like bladder spasticity. Swedish flower pollen, 1 to 2 tablets 4 times a day. It's a natural alpha-1 blocker. Bladder Up, which is from a pumpkin seed extract, help to heal bladder wall. Doesn't matter if you've had chronic E. coli, urea plasma, urea lyticum, or other inflammatory process in the bladder, including mild stone formation or gravel. Cell defense to heal the bladder wall as an anti-inflammatory. Very often we can get unusual dysbiosis in lower bowel, blastocystis hominis, Nutrimedical 15 drops in water 3 times a day, Allicin Med a capsule to 2 capsules 3 times a day, Living Probiotic, which is the Result 6 strain from Paris, a capsule twice a day. And the Living Probiotic Ultra Howard strain, the most powerful probiotic on the planet. And berberstatin. Berberstatin, 1 to 2 capsules twice a day. Memory. If people are trying to improve memory, we talk about Cognition Plus, Brain Power, Synaptin, which is a little brother of the Cognition Plus. Synaptin, very small little capsule, very powerful. CDP choline, which is cytidine choline, uridine monophosphate, and ultrathymine B1. And BioLVR. And you can improve myelination with Neurogen and reduce brain inflammation with cell detox glutathione. Breast health. And again, remember, certain bacteria and stealth pathogens actually trigger off breast cancer and a bioaccumulation of xenotoxins. And everybody who's got breast cancer has dysbiosis where they're deconjugating toxins in their lower bowel. If you actually measure their red and white cell level of these volatile cancer-inducing agents called often endocrine disruptors, you'll find that their lower bowel bacteria are the culprit, releasing them, and they reconcentrate in the breast tissue, which concentrates biotoxins, including xenoestrogen. So we have xenoestrogen detox, Semethyl, Nutrimedical to kill off any pathogens, including bacteria in the breast tissue, NutriDefense to turn off the inflammation, and NutriPhos for healing the breast tissue. Let's see, Clostridium difficile, we talked about this similarly with the Living Probiotic Ultra, Nutrimedical, Allicin Med, and Silver 100 spray. Cancer cachexia, this is where you've actually lost a lot of your muscles. Mega Muscles, which is the most powerful amino acid power for sports. I recommend you put it into the Sports Energy Light Drink. You can add to that ALC 1000, half a teaspoon in the drink, and D-ribose. ALC 1000, I should relabel it as cell energy. It's really powerful stuff. I mean, for your brain and your tissues. Immediately increases energy, like within a couple minutes, not hours. D-ribose directly converts to ATP. You want ATP? You take that along with NADH tablets, a tablet 1 under the tongue or 2 under the tongue. NADH, amazing stuff. Mountain Red Velvet to rebuild the tissues. Malignant Arrest for cancer, and of course the combination drink. A smoothie, taken 4 to 6 times a day at least. Ageless, Life Support, NutriComplete, and Glycemics. Because you got to put a person, the best thing is to keep them on a ketogenic diet, and if you are really trying to do that, you want to use the NutriComplete along with Glycemics. Cancer prevention, Beligna Block. This is the sulforaphane glycosinolate from the broccoli seed, ellagic acid from Terminella shibuya, Power C Plus, and full vitamin K2. Those are the main cancer prevention molecules. And also oncomycin or myco-D2 helps you because the vitamin D2 helps block cancer. And Mycel D3, we have the drops, 1,000 units per drop, 5,000 units per soft gel. Candida, berberstatin, 2 capsules twice a day, Living Probiotic, and Nutrimedical orally, Allicin Med. Cardiomyopathy, we have people that have congestive heart failure. Basically, congestive heart failure is 2 things. Firstly, you get a failure of the vessels to respond to the shearing force of the heart contraction. And secondly, eventually you get what's called a cardiomyopathy, the mitochondria in the heart. So you start off with a cardiovasc, 15 to 45 drops or 1 to 3 capsules 3 times a day. VascuCare, which we're now coming back out this week with a 330 milligram capsule. IBS Care, which is the slow-release form of carnitine. And if you want to have a real superpower carnitine, you want to use the ALC 1000. You can mix in a drink, like with the Sports Energy Light or Brain Mag, which works in the central nervous system and the heart. We also have calcium magnesium taurate, calcium. We have magnesium taurate. CoQ10 Supreme. This is the immediate one for your heart. You can also use CoQ10 ubiquinol, Supreme ubiquinol, as a reserve form that works in your heart and brain. But the CoQ10 Supreme, 2 to 3 soft gels twice a day, and magnesium glycinate malate. You can have a heart not functioning if you have adequate magnesium. It's going to be cytoprotective for the heart. And we're looking at, for example, general support for blood pressure. You want to use Cardiovasc Supernox to raise the nitric oxide. You can also take NutriDefense, which has superoxide dismutase 1 enzyme in it. Gamma E Plus to stop peroxynitrate and hydroperoxy with tocotrienols and tocopherols. And of course, magnesium is very important. Magnesium taurate, magnesium glycinate for the heart. And of course, to stop arrhythmias, forskolin, Coleus forskolii, forskolin 1 to 2 capsules twice a day, which also works on the weight, converts white fat to brown fat, and helps speed fat metabolism, and helps microcirculation in the eye, the brain, and elsewhere. Carpal tunnel syndrome. We talked about this before. Inflamex, tendon mender, to modify the tenocytes in the intercarpal ligaments, joint performance, to actually reheal the cartilage between the intercarpal bones. Mountain Red Velvet, onto the tongue, open 1 capsule 3 or 4 times a day. Collagen Max capsule twice a day, and topically pregnenolone and curcumin cream. And then topically you can wear either a micropulse or you can use that end. The Lumen Photon is very good for healing. Setting 7 for turning off inflammation, and the NICO setting for healing the connective tissues, NICO. Central retinal vein obstruction, Vision Max. Nattokinase to reduce blood viscosity. Cell detox glutathione to stop free radicals. Neurogen for the desmyelination of the nerve head. And cell defense. Very important. Central retinal vein. And of course, we treat it as a stealth pathogen infection, so you might want to be taking also allicin med, nutriodine. And cervical and thoracic, lumbar, spinal stenosis. Don't rush in and do surgery, major surgery. If you need to do any surgery, do microsurgery, but you have the alternative to start off with Inflamex, because it's usually the chemicals on the outside of the nerve sheath that actually cause the pain and the dysfunction. And it's often a chemical discitis, where there's a little extrusion along the posterior annulus of the disc, even cervical discs. Collagen Max, tendon mender, joint performance, and of course we mentioned already, cell detox glutathione. Chronic fatigue syndrome, Cognition Plus, Narival, which is acetyltyrosine, and BioLVR. Children's wellness. People say, well, what should I give a child? I say, well, I like the smoothie of Ageless Life Support and NutriComplete. I'll make a cod liver liquid, at least 5 to 10 mils in a smoothie. And Bone Generator, you can open up 3 capsules in the smoothie and give them break it up 2 or 3 times a day, 3 or 4 ounces. That's a great, formula because it covers everything. Ageless Life Support, NutriComplete. Cholesterol, Omega Cod Liver Liquid, 10 mils in the morning. You can go up to 20 if necessary. There's elevated triglycerides, Neovasc, and Omega Supreme Krill are very important for stopping the oxidative stress. And cholesterol will respond nicely to the Omega Cod Liver Liquid. Let's see. Chronic pain. Again, Inflamex, Collagen Max, pregnenolone, and curcumin cream. Cluster headaches and migraine headaches. CoQ10 Supreme Ubiquinol. Not just the regular CoQ10, but the Ubiquinol. You puncture a soft gel, put it in your mouth 3 times a day. Take vein away, 2 capsules twice a day. Ellagic acid, 2 capsules twice a day. And under the tongue, Power Methyl B12, a tablet twice a day, and boom. If need be, you add some methyl for methylation, because it's the methylation pathway that prevents vasoconstriction, and the dilation phase is when you get a cluster headache or a migraine. So CoQ10, the 2 core ones are CoQ10, Ubiquinol under the tongue, and Power Methyl B12, and vein away, ellagic acid. We'll continue when we come back. If you have questions on any wellness issue, any geopolitical issue, 800-259-5791. Your questions are welcome. Just tell the board up. Justin today, but it is important.
Do you have difficulty taking supplements?
And we have a couple questions from Russ in Alabama. One on health, I think another one on geopolitical, dealing with the liar in chief, Ted Cruz. Go ahead with your question about eyes.
The whites of my eyes are having discoloration for some time now. I have no idea what it is.
Well, the first test to do is do a smack test and see if you have elevated bilirubin. If you've got liver problems like hepatitis or elevated bilirubin, it's going to show up in your eyes and they'll be yellowish or yellowish green. Other than that, you can have oxidative stress in the eyes. Oxidative stress will make them slightly darker. Usually those are the main things that happen that will cause significant discoloration. Minor discoloration can be normal. You don't have any cataracts or anything like that, though, right?
No, this is localized areas of discoloration.
Okay, the thing to think of there is that you may have a pterygium. Have you ever heard of pterygium?
No.
P-T-Y-E-R-G-I-O-N. Pterygium. P-T-Y-E-R-G-I-O-N. What it is basically is an overgrowth and discoloration of the white or sclera part of the eye caused by ultraviolet light. You'll see pterygium more commonly in the left eye because it's exposed when you're driving. And also you'll see people who are outside a lot. The spectra of ultraviolet light in the last 24 years has increased so that 24 years ago, less than 23% of the light was UVB or higher energy. Now, 73% plus of the energy of the light in the ultraviolet spectra is UVB or higher. A will tan you, B will burn you, C will give you cancer, and D will cause death. And when you're exposed to these lights, it causes an overgrowth of it causes inflammatory peroxynitrate and hydroperoxy radical in the sclera. It overgrows and gets dyspigmented. So it usually means you need to wear a proper eye protection sunglass with SPF 40 and probably build hats and try to avoid the midday sun. Otherwise, if you get pterygium, it can grow across the central visual axis and can actually cause blindness, and you can require surgery to cut the pterygium out, which is not exactly fun surgery because you have to use laser to cut it out as it grows across the cornea. Okay.
My vision has been getting increasingly blurry.
Yeah, the first thing to do is a slit lamp exam with a gonioscopy. Could be to look to see if you have cataracts or macular changes and to see if you're developing an earlier sneaky pterygium that's sneaking across the visual axis and affecting your vision. It's called a gonioscopy with a slit lamp biomicroscope. And they can look in your eye, see if you got cataracts, either a central sclerosing or peripheral. See if you have a pterygium or if you have any macular changes.
And what is a SMAC test?
SMAC? SMAC is a blood test. It's a standard panel. Looks like bilirubin, electrolytes, things like that. It's called an SMAC.
Okay, and last night a very good Christian and well-meaning friend of mine told me that based on some of Ted Cruz's rhetoric and an interview that she heard with his father, Ted Cruz's father,
right.
She said this is a guy who had memorized the Constitution by the time he was 8. He was born with a Bible in one hand and a Constitution in the other. He's a devout Christian, and he's our chance to get a Christian in the White House. And she's thoroughly convinced of this. And yet, on the other hand, a lot of people say that Cruz is a fraud.
Yeah, now, let me tell you, one of the best ways to tell if he's a fraud is to check the facts. So there's 3 categories of information you can use to evaluate Ted Cruz. He's not stupid. He's very smart. But if you actually look, the PAC money he has is taken from the banks like Goldman Sachs. His wife is a current member of CFR, and she's a major manager of his campaign. He's tied directly to the big money interests inside the GOP party, even though he tries to pretend he's on the outside. He's actually an insider. And he's actually a natural-born Canadian. And his parents, if you actually follow the Constitution, he actually doesn't qualify to be a presidential candidate. He's tried to lie about this because he's extremely bright. He's way brighter than Marco Rubio, but he's also very corrupt. And this guy's real smart, but he doesn't qualify, and he's a liar. Now, yes, maybe he can use the scripture, but you know who can quote scriptures faster than any pastor on earth? See if you can guess. Exactly. Now, you have to understand, Satan has an IQ beyond the scope of any non-human beings ever lived on earth, including Moses. who was, in the ancient times, one of the smartest people of the ancient world. He was about to be Pharaoh, which is why his name is Moses, mean taken out of. It's like saying somebody's Johnson. Well, saying son, it means your dad was John, and he was the head of, say, the Viking tribe. So he was going to be the next Viking leader, okay? So Moses was the next selected Pharaoh. So he's not a stupid guy. He was a high priest, he was a physician and a general and an herbologist, as well as making ormus or gold, monoatomic gold. This guy was real smart. He was also an astronomer, astrologer. He knew a lot of stuff, the star signs. That's why he knew the judgment was coming. Now, Ted Cruz is a genius. Okay, there's no doubt about it, but he's evil. He's a liar.
Well,
okay.
We talked about his constitutionality, and I said, well, gee, we've got a constitutional scholar in the White House right now.
No, he's not a scholar. I'd like to see proof. For example, if you look at all of his so-called photoshopped records and so on, I doubt seriously if he's a constitutional person. And in fact, if you look at his records, there's giant gaps where people say they don't remember him being in the Law Society at his so-called university he went to. This guy was a non-entity. Where's his publications? Where his legal cases he dealt with in court? We don't see any history on that at all. Everything about Barack Obama is manufactured, and it's actually the globalists looking at us and laughing at us, saying we are profane, we don't understand that they actually manufacture history and reality, and we're just dumb, okay? And they figure if they can foist, remember now, there's only really one establishment party. There's a Democratic side of it and a Republican side. Hillary's in the Democratic side, and Cruz is in the Republican side, okay? So, if you understand that, then you understand that both Bernie Sanders, who is anti-establishment, and Trump, who are anti-establishment, are getting votes because the public is fed up with both. Now, I personally think, although this is not going to happen, an ideal arrangement would be to have President Trump and Vice President Sanders. How's that? You have the heart to know how to want to do something to help the poor and the disadvantaged, and you have the brains in Trump to actually put together experts that can actually get it done. So you have to have an economy to pay for stuff. You have to get rid of the Fed Reserve. You have to get rid of malpractice. You have to get rid of insurance companies. You got to control your borders. You've got to make our allies revere us and our enemies be afraid of us. You've got to actually, and even when Trump makes comments like waterboarding, you need to make something better. Look, I'm a physician and neuroscientist. I could tell him how to make a non-lethal form of truth-telling, and here's how you do it. I'll give you an example. These chambers you can go into like a big egg, and you can't drown. You just float on it like a cork. You can put somebody in what's called these isolation chambers. You give them a dissociative anesthetic shot. You have a microphone inside it, and you just have them float inside there. And they're going to talk and spill the beans. They'll talk about everything, including how many marbles they stole from their cousin when they're 10 years of age playing marbles. They'll tell you everything without any torture, no danger of death, and no Geneva violations. How's that?
Amazing.
So, Dr. Deagle, and I'm writing this so people know in the forums, a solution paper on every issue on this planet I'm writing this year.
I'm Nick Soboleski, a Select Quote agent with a true story that could...
This earlier, it's been about 5 years since I've had anybody on air try to challenge me without stupid ad hominem attacks. And I know this sounds arrogant, but it's not, okay? I have, in prayer, and again, a lot of prayer, a lot of research, a solution to every single major issue that mankind in this nation and other nations are faced with on this planet. For example, is an alternative to waterboarding, I already mentioned, is an alternative to healthcare. And here's my point plan. Number one, you get rid of state licensing authorities, you get rid of malpractice and have mediation. You have training that not only linear but lateral, so you can start off as a massage therapist, and if you show the skill sets, the brains, and the willingness to train, you can become a neurosurgeon. It's your desire and your ability. We also need to make education affordable, so anybody, including a black kid or Hispanic kid or mixed race kid from the ghetto, because they show the skill sets, they can become an engineer, a doctor, or a lawyer, or whatever. We need to make it so that education is affordable, not just giving billions of dollars to education so they can build giant stadiums. We need to make sure that teachers are kept adequate, and if they're not adequate, they can't teach kids, and kept in unions. And for example, Hillary Clinton is tied in with 2 major teacher unions, and Bernie Sanders raised his comment. I saw it last night, and Bernie was pretty good on his feet there. I was surprised how sharp this guy is. He has a heart, but he doesn't have the brains to actually put it together because he said he felt it was a compliment to be told you're a communist. Communism is anti-religion. Communism is anti-innovation. We are not all created equal. Do you think that I'm equal to a 6'9" NBA basketball player in his mid-20s? Of course not. I'll never jump as high as him. But guess what? I watched the martial arts the other day with some of these martial artists. I do not want to get in the ring with them, but they don't want to get in the ring with me intellectually because they'll tap out in 30 seconds. Now, we're all different. But the thing is, what we need to do is we need to connect. Think of media in this show. Remember now, most media, whether it's print media, television media, radio media, etc., is not respecting the fact they're dealing with the most sacred thing of human consciousness, which is media, we're all media hogs because that allows us to have a human race, to have a multi-celled organism called humanity that stretches into the past, present, and future. Not just on this planet, but across the galaxy, and interacts eventually with other galactic civilizations, and of course with a higher order of beings we might call angels or messengers of the Most High, and God himself. In fact, every time someone is referring to the Bible and the words of prophets are talking to human beings that spoke to God, and God spoke back to them. What we have to understand is the nature of what we are, that if without God in us, which is what Emmanuel was, God with us, God in him, we cannot have a full expression of our heritage and our destiny. We can't. Right now, when we have people like Hillary Clinton has tied to the teachers' unions, they're going to have inadequate teachers, teachers that are abusive, teachers that are incompetent, that are not going to be pulled aside and say, we need to retrain you. For example, if you're an orthopedic surgeon and you haven't done a knee surgery in 5 years, I don't care if you've been in practice 50 years, you need to make sure that you can prove you're competent to do that particular procedure. Just like if I went back and I wanted to volunteer with the fire department to do trauma, I'd probably go back to the local university here, say UC Irvine, and I'd take my trauma course again, which I've done over about 7 times. The first time was in the early 80s with the 82nd Airborne in Savannah, Georgia, and I worked in the trauma and burn unit in Georgia. These things would come back to me, but I would make sure that I'm competent before I can. So if we maintain levels of continuing education competency, we can fix this. As I'm saying here, there is not a problem, which I'm writing a series of articles. I wrote one on immigration. I'm writing one on Zika virus and the gene plague that's going on. I'm writing one on energy. I'm writing articles on every major topic, including healthcare, and specific point-by-point solutions to fix these problems. Not just kind of airy-fairy my opinion, but real bullet-point solutions that'll actually fix everything. Because my compassion is the compassion not of a man, but of the Most High God through me, because I'm a believer. And when I'm lost, which is...
that the burgeoning listenership of the Nutrimedical report needs to be mobilized to direct Trump to your position papers and to have his attention put on Dr. Bill Deagle as a team member.
Yeah, exactly. And I can do that. I don't want glory. I don't want money. I just wanted to provide solutions, and they don't have to accept them. Remember, I tell people the most important thing is not that we think we have the final end-all in knowledge, but we have the best questions. For example, and you can see this in the way Trump's mind works is why he's a good negotiator, and why he can negotiate even immigration issues. Because he may make a brash statement like, we need to do even more aggressive with these monsters or savages than waterboarding. Waterboarding doesn't work. Torturing people to death doesn't work. But I could create a system that would not put anybody in danger, not violate the Geneva Accord, and would get all the truth out of someone who's a potential terrorist. We don't necessarily need to build a wall. What we need to have is an electronic wall so no one can get across the border either above or underground. You don't need to build a physical wall. That's archaic. You can do things like put a pole every 30 yards and have, detectors and have drones and so on. You can even have one of these, we call blimps, up at 20, 30,000 feet that can cover hundreds of square miles. And you can have rapid reaction teams and even drones that could fly in there and put a stop to anybody trying to cross the border that we don't want. The biggest problem isn't just that you build a wall. And you say, well, we want to stop the drugs coming into, say, Vermont. The drugs are being brought in by the CIA, the Department of Justice, and corrupt elements within the military. I took care of pilots at Buckley and Peterson Air Force Base and Aurora Air Force Base. I remember one of the guys that was actually taking care and repairing the Black Hawk helicopters that fly out to Vail and they're secret military base there. And he came back freaked out, and he wanted to see me after hours because he was suicidal, because he had seen an entire jet come back, Hercules C-130, loaded to the gunnels with heroin, shrink-wrapped on pallets. Now, you need to know that the Mena, Arkansas thing, and Hillary Clinton was involved with this too, and the Bush family, and George Bush Sr. is one of the most malevolent, evil people that's ever drawn breath on the planet. He was in Dealey Plaza with the assassination of JFK that was all planned, with the Israeli Mossad and the Mafia. The primary thing behind that, by the way, was Israel wanted to have the nuclear bomb and nuclear materials, and JFK didn't want to do it. He also wanted to bring in a new alternative money system. He wanted to change the behavior of the CIA. They're running around the world causing havoc and destruction, which is why we have Al-Qaeda and ISIS right now, because they're trained by CIA and Academy, and a town north of Amman, Jordan, by Israeli special forces, by Academy, and by our CIA. They're our bad dogs, okay? Let's face the fact we are an evil nation, and we have a cancer in us, which is not everybody in the CIA, not everybody in the military. It's a tiny nidus of cancerous evil going on, and we tolerate it. But the thing is, if we tolerate something, it's going to grow, and it's going to control us. Just like Hillary Clinton. It doesn't matter if it's Hillary Clinton or if it's Ted Cruz. They're both establishment. Do you think a lot of the money coming from the big banks or coming from the hydrofracking companies? Like, one of the issues that came out last night with Bernie Sanders was he's against all hydrofracking. I've come out as an environmental doctor. You can't put toxic chemicals down to hydrofrack to break up oil and gas. They already have technology off the shelf that doesn't use any chemicals, use microwaves, and you can actually pull all the oil you want out of the ground. And you don't increase the risks of causing earthquakes. Because, by the way, when you do stupid things like putting down something of a different specific gravity, or using chemical hydrofracking, which destroys the groundwater and destroys the water table, this is craziness. And just like Corexit 9500 they used in the Gulf of Mexico, which they're still using, by the way. The military does not use it. Do you know that all the branches of the military use something that's non-toxic to disperse soil? But they put Corexit 9500 because they wanted maximum destruction of the biosphere in the Gulf of Mexico and the food supply of the people that live along the coast. And people say, no, they wouldn't do that. That's the conspiracy theory. I said, well, then you tell me why all the branches of the military use a non-toxic method, and we have non-toxic ways of fracking that do not involve any volatile hydrocarbons that cause the destruction of the biosphere. Any. And why don't we re-inject the aquifers like the Ogallala with primary water? I've tried to bring on the program Paul Power. I'm going to bring on scientists from Northwestern University. Guess what? I have all the facts. Not some. I got all. I can talk about, primary water from ringwoodite and everything. I have solutions. You mentioned, Russ, that you're a singer with laryngitis for 6 weeks. The current viruses cause a lot of inflammation. I've talked to a lot of people who have ended up in emergency and on steroids and so on. First thing you do is you take inhalations every 2 hours of Silver 100. Second thing you do is you start taking cell detox glutathione. And the third is you chew tablets of GastroHeal zinc carnosine. Those are the first three things you do. You take antipathogenics, Allicin Med, Nutridiane, Silver 100. The most important of those is, of course, the Silver 100 sprays for your vocal cords. And the next would be, of course, Allicin Med. Now, you mentioned about this, and a lot of people mistake. They think when I'm ranting that I'm like, going crazy, or I'm, like, you know who. Anyway, I'm not going to mention any names. The issue is, I am driven not by arrogance. People need to know that. To say, if you're confident, just like, Michael Jordan, I don't think he ever exuded the idea he was confident or cocky. I'm not cocky. I have been given skill sets by God, or I will get down in serious, face on a carpet prayer to try to discern a solution to a problem, whether there's issues of what's the cause of a health issue or a geopolitical solution. And you got to get out of this left-right paradigm. And people say, well, you take a position of healthcare that's even more left than even communist. I said, look, healthcare should be a right, like the ancient Cohens. Would anybody dispute in the Bible that God actually determined that the Cohens were the public health officers, the high priest in the Holy of Holies on Yom Kippur, and they were your doctor? You never had to pay the doctor more to come to your house if you're sick in the middle of the night 2,000-some years ago, 3,000 years ago. You know why? Because God designated he wouldn't let his children be treated by anybody that was not called as a priest, who put the patient not as part of a list, but the only part of a list. In other words, you have to have compassion, that God's compassion. He's not going to let his children being taken by anybody who's not subservient to him first. So we have a godless, atheistic healthcare situation. Even when people call themselves Christians, most of them won't speak up because they'll lose their license or their means of employment, or they'll tick off their colleagues by taking an extreme position against abortion or eugenics, or against big pharma, or against not even finding a solution to the problem, because they all want to line up. And if they're more successful, like I've had Dr. Russell Blaylock on the program, and he had a master's degree in biochemistry before he went into medical school and neurosurgery. He got in trouble simply by adding magnesium in the neurointensive care unit to prevent people from getting intracranial hypertension after, say, removing an angioma that could cause you to cone your foramen, your brainstem and pons through the foramen magnum and die. Okay? So doctors get upset if you're just more successful than them. It's a pecking order. I call it the chicken yard of medicine. If you're a young, smart chicken, you're going to get your feathers picked off you by the other chickens because they hate your guts, just because not because you're arrogant, because you're competent. Now, in medicine, there's a body count. Now, in politics, all these characters, like Hillary Clinton and Marco Rubio and Ted Cruz, they all swim in the ocean of money called the Sea of Washington, D.C., I call the District of Criminals. And people need to realize there's only one party system in America, no different than in the Soviet Union. It's called the Establishment Party. And the fact that we have Bernie Sanders on one side and Trump on the other side, both saying we're not going to kiss their butts anymore, and you guys are all mad as hell, like the movie Trump Network, that's why they're tapping into it. That's why they're getting these giant groups of people. And to be honest with you, Trump needs good advisors like me to tell him, pull bullet points. This is how you fix Fukushima. This is how you fix infrastructure. This is how you fix energy problems. This is how you fix healthcare without costing a fortune. Because Bernie may have some good ideas, but a communist isn't going to fix it because he's going to destroy the economy while he's trying to provide justifiably care and education and infrastructure and clean schools that have water fountains at work for little black kids in Detroit so they can actually safely go to school and not get shoved into gangs. And to make sure the damn drugs don't get in here because they're being brought in by the CIA. So the idea of building a wall and thinking that's going to stop all the drugs, Trump, you're delusional. You don't have to build a physical wall. You need to have an informational wall so nobody can get across the damn border. But you also got to make sure that there's no evil elements within the CIA, the Department of Justice. Fast and Furious is a good example. Giving guns to our cartels that work with us to bring in $2 trillion worth of illegal drugs from Afghanistan, the Golden Triangle, and from Central and South America, cocaine. Well, guess what? That $2 trillion goes to Bechtel Corporation to build underground cities, to build off-world space platforms, do all kinds of weird stuff at trillions and trillions of dollars, billions, like Carl Sagan, to do evil crap. That the average population, if they knew about it, they'd say, that's a sci-fi thriller. That didn't happen. Nobody does that. Well, guess what? I've been in the underground cities. So this isn't open to anybody's damned opinion. Okay? A lot of people say, well, Dr. Deagle, that's your opinion. No, it's not open to your opinion. This is something I firsthand experienced, so it's not open to your damned opinion. You need to understand, I've been through hell, and God's kept me alive on this earth to be a witness to you, to tell you, if you don't listen to me, you're going to suffer first, and you're going to die hard. Not like the movie with Bruce Willis, you're going to die hard. And that's why he sent somebody like Trump, I call God's trump card. That's why he sent Deagle to be an advisor. That's why he sent this media, which is my show, the Nutrimedical Report, Clay and Aaron Show. That's why he's telling you out there, you need to support us by buying our nutraceuticals. You need to support us by pushing to try to get us to show solutions to these issues like healthcare. It's obscene that the most rich nation on earth has 29.5 million Americans have no health insurance. Or senior citizens under Obamacare, if you're 72 and you need a clipped aneurysm, at 2 a.m. on a Saturday, the ethics committee meets on Tuesday. Tough luck. Have a nice day. You're going to die. Okay? That's Obamacare. And anybody who says they're just going to fix it like Hillary, they're going to kind of do a little fancy dancing around it, that's evil.
I think that just in the spirit of Harley Schlanger saying that it's the people in their numbers who need to step up and take the bull by the horns, that we need something that we can do. Well,
that's why I tell you about healthcare, like these first three things.
It's just potential benefit. So there's something that the Nutrimedical audience with our hundreds of thousands of numbers can do, and that is to go to the Trump campaign and direct them to Dr. Deagle.
Yeah, listen, firstly, number one, I want to support him, but I also want him to not make statements that alienate a portion of the public. I don't want to see either Hillary Clinton or Bernie, who doesn't know how to actually get things done, elected by default because Trump makes a bunch of statements during the campaign that he can't qualify or he can't refine with proper advisors, and he alienates people and loses enough of the vote that he actually blows it. Because the direction I see is this. These are the drivers that I see happening. Number one, Trump is alienating a portion of the people, but he's bringing in independents and Democrats. I think in one of the states he brought in like 22,000 more Democrats who were assigned Democrats to join the Republican Party. But on the other hand, he's ticking off a lot of the Republicans because, and these, by the way, are people that are going to hurt themselves. For example, if you're, people don't realize the Republican Party's in for big transnational corporations. They're going to hurt little towns. Let's say when Carrier decides to move its air conditioning units from America in the last few weeks to Mexico. That's not good. It's not good. Okay? It's not good when they strip 50,000 factories in the last, say, 10, 15 years and send them all over the world and then try to sell stuff back to us, and then our dollar is our only export. Once the dollar, by the way, starts to die, we're sunk because that's our main export is our dollar.
I think we NutriMedical listeners have marching orders. I think there's something that we can do to potentiate the implementation of these alternative solutions.
Right. And by the way, these are logical ones. These are ones that can be validated. For example, we talked about this with Harley Schlanger, pass Glass-Steagall. Put tariffs on goods, which Trump's talked about. Lower corporate tax rate. You know the corporate tax rate in Canada for corporations there is like 15%. In some places here in America, it's like 35, 40%. What the heck? You get small businesses struggling along trying to pay these giant corporate taxes. If they do make a profit, it's going to be taken away to the government and then wasted. And then they have omnibus bills where they give money to Planned Parenthood. If Planned Parenthood was banned from doing any abortions and they did pap smears and other things, that's fine. But otherwise, they should be completely defunded. Why don't we have healthcare centers where we have doctors, nurses, chiropractors, naturopaths, herbologists, psychologists, dietitians and so on, working as a team so you don't burn out the doctors. You pay them time off if they're sick. You make sure they have continuing education. People can laterally train. They can start off as a nurse or nurse practitioner or a massage therapist or whatever, acupuncturist, and train them to do whatever their skill sets and their time and their education allows them to do. I call it lateral advancement. Why don't we have a system where we get rid of state licensing authorities? I saw situations where doctors were being attacked by the state licensing authority, like in Texas and in our state, where I supported them financially fighting against the state in Texas, where, Dr. Brzezinski's clinic that does cancer treatment was being attacked because he was more successful than some of his other colleagues. He wasn't 100% successful, but if you got a tumor that kills 100% of kids within 6 months and you save 40% of them, that's huge, like Trump says, and they attacked him, the state licensing authority, because he was competing against their buddies. Is that evil or what? And it kills kids. Son of a bitch.
You have developed a huge following, and it's time for us to mobilize through the Trump campaign.
Yeah, if we get Trump to contact, I will provide him solutions, and they don't have to accept them. They just have to use them as, hey, this is a platform of, let's think about solutions, and let's do it in a godly way. Don't talk about waterboarding.
Are your